When Endgame came out, many hailed it as the most ambitious crossover event in history, which led to many great memes. And although every year Marvel Comics puts out at least one major crossover event, there was of course a first. This is the Kree-Skrull War, and even though it's kind of dumb by today's standards, there is no doubt that it was one of the most significant events in all of comic history, inspiring many large-scale blockbusters like Secret Wars and DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, sure, Marvel had crossovers in the past, but they were small-scale, like Spider-Man trying out for the Fantastic Four. But the Kree-Skrull War was on a whole different level. Obviously, the Kree and the Skrulls were there, but this was the first time the two iconic alien races ever appeared in a comic together, and they were being fought by the current group of Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the entirety of the original Avengers team who had all left to do their own thing, Captain Marvel, and the Inhumans. But like I said earlier, the book is also pretty damn dumb. We got evil cows, we got horny cavemen, we got gun phones, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books and my name is Drake. Let's talk about it. But before getting too far into things, I want to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Atlas VPN. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard many times by now that using a VPN is a great step towards keeping your data and internet browsing secure. But what's great about Atlas VPN is that they are the most affordable on the market, at just $1.83 a month, with 3 months extra for free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Plus, with just one subscription, you can protect as many devices as you want. And of course, my favorite feature is that through the many servers at your disposal with Atlas VPN, you can change your location to access content on streaming services that aren't available in your country. I used it to get access to all of the Studio Ghibli films, which are basically only available in Mexico. To get started and snag those 3 extra months for free, just go to get.atlasvpn.com/comicdrake. Thank you very much to Atlas VPN once again for helping me keep the lights on, but for now, let's get back to the video. The Kree-Skrull War was told in the pages of Avengers number 89 through 97 in 1971, and was written by Roy Thomas and illustrated by Sal Buscema, John Buscema, and Neil Adams. The book starts out with this dude, Rick Jones. He's the kid that Bruce Banner pushed out of the way of the Gamma Bomb, which turned him into the Hulk. But Marvel has never really known what to do with him afterwards. Rick Jones was always getting flung around from book to book, desperate to try to make something stick. Well, at this point in time, Rick had a Shazam kind of thing going on, where he could clang his bracelets together and swap places with Captain Mar-Vell, a former Kree soldier that was stuck in an alternate dimension. The body swaps only lasted for a few hours at a time, so Mar-Vell was desperate to get out of this negative zone. One day, the captain saw Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four hanging around the dimension, and then go through a portal that closed up behind him. Mar-Vell was like, there's been a door here this entire time. So he swaps places with Rick, breaks into the Fantastic Four's lab, and opens up their portal to drag Rick out of the negative zone. The plan worked flawlessly. Only problem though is that a big evil bug dude followed him out. When Mar-Vell broke into the lab though, the Avengers were alerted to help out. They show up in the nick of time, with Vision doing that classic maneuver of phasing through the Bugman so that he would jump right back into the portal. So crisis averted, right? Well, yeah, but then suddenly a giant unrelated robot appeared out of nowhere, grabs Mar-Vell, and then vanishes. But before anyone had time to process that, the former Avengers Yellowjacket and Wasp raised a distress signal. See, they were out in Alaska doing science shit with the government, but then a prehistoric ring of Earth popped up and the government scientists got stuck in it. Hank and Janet got on a giant prehistoric dragonfly to go save them, but once they entered the circle, they started to feel woozy. Thinking that there was no other way to save them in time, Hank backhands his wife off the dragonfly so she would fall outside of the radius. This was a full 10 years before Hank slapped her again and left a permanent stain on his reputation. It's the same pose and everything. But anyway, it's revealed that all of this had been the work of the Kree bad guy, Ronan the Accuser. He had used that robot earlier to capture Mar-Vell, who he plans on taking back to their homeworld. And while he's here on Earth, he might as well use a big de-evolution ray to wipe out all life on the planet by devolving them back to amoebas. Because comics. This is why Hank was feeling so sick earlier. He's a caveman now and scoops up his wife to go yabba dabba doo. Ronan captures Vision and Scarlet Witch, who during all of this conflict began to develop feelings for each other, culminating in them trying to kiss while in captivity. Vision pulls back at the last minute going, "No, I can't, I'm a robot and you're a human!" And Ronan just sits there channeling his best Lord Farquaad impression and laughs at them. The conflict randomly ended when Ronan got a phone call from space in the middle of the fight, and a general tells him that the Skrulls are invading, prompting him to drop everything and return home to join the war. The Avengers say that's not their problem, so they shut down the de-evolution machine, returned everything back to normal, and told the scientists they rescued to keep everything that happened a secret so that there wouldn't be a worldwide alien panic. Cut back to the Avengers mansion, and the team is hanging out and serving up looks. Bro, Vision is rocking the hell out of that turtleneck. What is drip if not swag persevering? But remember how the rescued scientists said that they were going to keep quiet? Yeah, they went back on that the very second they got home. Enter Warren Craddock. He's the head of the newly formed Alien Activities Commission, and he has a list of aliens that are secretly hiding in America posing as model citizens, and it's his mission to bring them in, along with anyone who might be aiding them. This is 100% a parallel to Senator Joe McCarthy, who ran the Un-American Activities Committee during the Cold War. Just swap out aliens with communists, but don't tell them about the space communist show. They would probably blow a gasket.
Money doesn't exist in the 24th century. The acquisition of wealth is no longer the driving force in our lives. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
McCarthy wants the Avengers to hand over Mar-Vell, but they refuse. Luckily though, the captain's friend Carol Danvers showed up and was like, hey, I know a farm upstate, let's go hide there. But S.H.I.E.L.D. was sent in to intervene. Nick Fury deliberately let Mar-Vell and Danvers get away, because he thinks the whole secret alien panic reeks of the same sentiment that led to the Japanese-American internment camps during World War II. Instead of going to the farm with Mar-Vell, the Avengers opted to bunker down in their mansion, but they were drawn out of hiding because a dude outside of their window was being harassed for being an alien sympathizer. Turns out though that this was simply a ruse, and these guys were just actors trying to serve up a lawsuit to Earth's mightiest heroes for harboring Mar-Vell. After a bad day in court, the Avengers return home, only to be greeted by veteran members Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, who express their deep disappointment in their colleagues and disband the team entirely. Absolutely heartbroken for having been kicked out of their home, the Avengers travel upstate to that farm that Carol Danvers took Mar-Vell to. But then, they're gunned down by some cows. Because comics. This is actually a deep cut to the first time that the Skrulls had ever appeared in the comics, Fantastic Four #2, all the way back in 1962, where the Fantastic Four encountered a group of Skrulls, kicked their asses, and then hypnotized the aliens into being cows. Apparently, a hyperbeam shot out of space and snapped them out of it. The newly awoken... That was a good one. The newly awoken Cow Skrulls transform into the Fantastic Four and go to town on the Avengers. While Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are taken prisoner, Vision goes into a self-preservation mode, which autopilots him back to the mansion. Hank Pym is called in because he's basically Vision's grandpa. Don't worry about it, that family tree is complicated as hell, but all you need to know is that Pym put on his old Ant-Man costume, shrinks down, and repairs Vision from the inside. Once he's back in tip-top shape, Vision sits up and is like, hey, thanks for fixing me, but also what the fuck, why did you guys kick us out? Iron Man says, no we didn't. Oh my god, it was the Cow Skrulls. Speaking of, the Cow Skrulls captured Carol Danvers and Mar-Vell off screen, but they managed to break free, and the captain decides to build an Omniwave projector. It's essentially a cell phone that allows for instant communication between galaxies, but only if a Kree uses it. If any other species makes a call, it turns into a big gun. As soon as the phone is complete, Mar-Vell instantly destroys it because Carol had been calling him Mar-Vell this entire time, but there's no way that she would have known that's his true name. That's right, Carol is a Skrull too, but not just any Skrull, she is the Super Skrull, an exiled warrior with all of the powers of the Fantastic Four. He takes out Mar-Vell and delivers him and the Maximoff twins as tribute to the Skrull Emperor, and hopes that he'll be welcomed back from exile. The Emperor though is a huge dick, so he says no. He's also a massive misogynist, and is mad that his daughter is his only child. The princess, on the other hand, is super nice and trying to get her dad to stop the war, which is why she's hot and doesn't have that pan dulce chin that every Skrull, including the women, have. Actually, a concha sounds pretty good right now. Hola, mi amor. ¿Puedes traer un concha? Por favor? Gracias, te amo. While all of this was going down, the other team defeated and captured the Cow Skrulls, and because the Avengers were deemed as traitors to America, they sent soldiers armed with Mandroid armor to take them out. Tony Stark was able to defeat them because he's the one that invented them in the first place, but suddenly, one of the Inhumans shows up and explains that the Kree had been aiding a coup that overthrew the Inhuman monarchy. And we find out that Earth is so important to this war because it is the exact midway point between the Kree and Skrull homeworlds. This is actually based on the real-world tactic in World War II, where islands in the Pacific were huge battlegrounds because of their strategic value of being closer to Japan. The Avengers help get King Black Bolt reinstated, Rick Jones, who had been here the entire time, got kidnapped by the Kree while they ran away, and the team uses Thor's hammer to teleport to space so they can fight the Skrulls, because apparently that's a power that it has. Back to the prisoners. Mar-Vell agrees to make the gun phone for the Emperor, but upon its completion, he used it to make a hologram projection of himself so it looked like that he was still building it in order to execute a sneak attack, because apparently that's a power that it has. Cut to Rick Jones. We find out that during all the chaos and confusion during the war, Ronan overthrew the Kree government and shoved its previous ruler, this head in a jar, into a closet, which they also throw Rick into. Jarhead activates a special power that apparently every human will develop thousands of years in the future, and Jones is able to create a bunch of mental constructs of Golden Age superheroes who go and kick the Kree's ass. What's wild about this, outside of Rick being able to, create people out of thin air, is that this was foreshadowed a few issues earlier when Jones talked about how much he loved Golden Age characters. However, included in this group are a bunch of heroes from old school comic publishers that have since gone out of business. These dudes are all public domain at this point, but that is still super interesting. But Rick has more powers than that. He is able to freeze the entire Kree army in place and also reveal that McCarthy was secretly a Skrull this entire time, so the anti-alien crowd that he had whipped up into a frenzy beat him to death. Crazy fun fact about this, in the original storyline with the Cow Skrulls, there were 4 aliens, but the artist Jack Kirby made a mistake and only drew 3 cows in the final page. So in bringing them back for the Kree-Skrull War, Thomas decided to use this continuity error to his advantage and have the missing 4th alien be the McCarthy character. With the Rick Ex Machina complete, Jarhead is able to regain control of the Kree Empire, so he calls off the war, and yeah, that's how the story ends. It is an extremely anticlimactic ending. For an event called the Kree-Skrull War, intergalactic warfare isn't really the focus, and the storyline feels disjointed, which makes sense considering that Roy Thomas said, quote,
"Did I have some master plan when I started out? Not really. I simply knew that the Kree and the Skrulls would be at war in the far reaches of space and that their conflict would be threatening to spill onto Earth, turning our planet into the cosmic equivalent of some Pacific island during World War II.
Despite all of this, the book was the largest storyline in comic history at the time, and it changed the game for good. With the industry seeing just how big their books could go, longer storylines began being implemented in comics, and eventually other big events like Secret Wars and Crisis on Infinite Earths followed in its footsteps. The war has also been used as the plot for some multimedia adaptations, most notably the Captain Marvel film. Of course, this storyline has since been subject to plenty of retcons. Like, for instance, we're told that during the 5 minutes that Mar-Vell was doing that hologram trick, he had time to charm the princess and hook up with her, leading to the birth of Hulkling of the Young Avengers. And let's not forget that many of the most important figures of the superhero community came together to form the Illuminati to try and prevent anything like this from ever happening again. And apparently, they've been operating in the background of Marvel Comics for decades. One such moment involved the Illuminati going to the Skrull homeworld and flexing their muscles, saying, "Don't fuck with the Earth or else we'll kick your ass again." But because the Emperor is the worst, he decided to do just that, leading to... In part 2, we're going to be taking a look at the secret invasion of Earth, and this is the first of a new ongoing project where I cover every major crossover event in Marvel history. There's going to be a dedicated playlist on screen for more, but don't forget to subscribe so you can catch every new episode as they come out. But anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.